Hello, everybody. This is Noah and John, and we are from UrbanDigs, and this is Friday. So you're going to get your weekly Manhattan market update quarterly edition. Johnny, we got Q1 coming out. We got a lot of things to talk about. Let's first get to the numbers. I'm looking at Manhattan overall supply, 5688. Show me that chart.
That's right. No, 5688. So it is still climbing. We've seen several weeks now where supply is just, inching up, inching up, inching up. This week was no surprise, but, it only climbed up by a little less than 0.5%, or a little more than 0.5%, I should say. So, it's still a gain, but it's not a big gain.
Yeah, there's not much going on there. There's going to be some stuff to talk about somewhere else. We'll get to that shortly. But until we get to there, let's look at Manhattan demand, pending sales, 4314. Show me that chart.
And again, we saw that that pivot, and we saw the pending sales start to take off again, and they're climbing up. But again, this was a very small incline. So we only climbed 0.2% from the last week. So it's still heading up, but again, that pace is really slow still.
Yeah, and I'm looking at this market pulse at 0.76. It's been trending down. So that's interesting. And again, it's not going up. So I'm going to keep an eye on that and see what happens there. We'll talk about that in another session. Let's go on to the weeklies. I'm looking at 1 week supply, and this is something to talk about here. 600 listings. That seems like a lot, Johnny. Show me that chart.
I mean, that's a lot. I mean, regardless of how you slice it, 600 is a lot. That's up nearly 28% from last week. And no, you're going to have to go back to May, I think, of last year to find a week that was higher. And even then, it was not by much. So this is a pretty monster week, to put that into context.
Yeah, and I was questioning whether or not we're going to get a lot of inventory. I mean, this is the kind of stuff we got last year. We had so much supply coming on. It was like 2,300, 2,400 things coming on at a monthly level. And I'm like, to get that, you got to get to 600 a week. And we were nowhere near it, Johnny. When you go back months ago, we were so far away, it just wasn't happening. April and September are our biggest new listing months. So let's just use caution. When we're looking at this is like what's supposed to happen now. This is April. This is our peak listing period. All right, buyers take notice. This is it, right? Once you get to May and June, it's going to go down. But is there something else going on in Manhattan real estate with rates going up and the whole stock market volatility and the whole war thing? Is something else happening? I don't know. So that's the thing. We got seasonal, we got macro. They're kind of noising each other out. I can't depict what's going on yet. We'll see what has to happen. Let's move on to demand. Again, huge number, 361 things going to contract. Johnny, show me that chart.
Yeah, and that is a huge number. It's up 20% from the week before, 361. So you're really getting up there. And again, if you want to figure out when the last time we had numbers like this is, you're going to have to go back to, as you said, October, but really April, May last year. That's when we had these big numbers come in. And I think you're right. No, we talk about supply and demand. They're really in balance right now, right? You had 600 listings come on. You still have almost 400 come off. So, net, it's an increase in supply, but it's not a very big increase. So it's going to be something to see as these weeks go on, which side wins this battle here.
Yeah, and I'm just saying buyers. If I'm a buyer, you're probably noticing for the first time in a while that there's some listings coming on. So let's see what happens there. All right, let's go to the quarterlies. All right, this is the quarterly market edition. We got Q1 coming up. There's going to be some headlines. All right, we're trying to keep you ahead of the curve. Now, let's first take a look at not the price action stuff. Let's look at the inventory, which is in blue, quarterly inventory in blue, quarterly pending sales in red. And here's your historical look. Try to look at the spread between the two. And how do the two interact when the spread's wide and the spread's narrow and the spread's wide? And if you look at the time period when that happens, you'll notice that the spread gets wider when the market is deteriorating. And the spreads gets tighter when the market is strengthening and recovering. And of course, you could see, what we were doing. If I had to just zone in for a second on what we all just experienced. Okay, what we all just experienced right here, and this is since the worst of it in fall of 2020, is you're noticing that this spread between these two lines is getting narrow, and it peaks out right over there at the end of last year. And since then, we bump up the other way for the first time. Again, a counter trend move for the first time in a while. We're going to take a look closer at this, Johnny, but what do you see when you look at these two dynamics together?
No, I agree with you. So I'm focused on that red line, the pending sales line, because to me, that's the measured demand. And it's at historically elevated levels. And it kind of popped up, came down, and turned right around the corner. So it's remaining strong. But, between these two lines, which one do I think is going to decrease first and fastest? I'd probably say pending sales is probably going to fall before supply falls at this point. But it's, I don't mean to be pessimistic. I'm just simply saying that it looks like, I think we previously had an imbalance of demand. Now it looks like we're shifting to an imbalance of supply. Still, I still think this is a very, very healthy market. It's a very liquid market. But
Yeah.
that said, I think that sellers are going to be facing a new reality. They're going to be facing some competition for the first time in a year and a half, and that's going to change the field out there.
Right. And it's almost like it's slowly happening in real time. I mean, agents are still reporting how crazy it is out there. That's why we got to kick him. This is a rising inventory, even though inventory is low, rising inventory, high demand, and it's a rising price action market. So it's a very confusing type of market to put all the pieces of the puzzle here. Let's just go into supply.
Yeah.
Let's just go into supply for a second. Again, we're low. When I say we're low in supply, but we're in a rising supply environment, this is a good chart to kind of point that out, right? You take a look at where we are right now. You can see what I mean by coming off of our lows, right? We snap back. That's the snap back up right over there. But if you take a look at where we are versus the red line, which is our historical average going way back to 2008, it's a lot of data, John, to do an average on. Very good chunk of data. We are still noticeably below that point. So I could say inventory is still low and it feels low, but we are rising.
Yeah, I would agree with that. And I think that characterizes a lot of the environment out there, which is that you're seeing things come on. It just doesn't feel like they're coming on because, you know, it's still low inventory.
Yeah, exactly. It makes you think back to that feeling back in the reopen in Q3 2020. Wow, what a time to be a buyer in that time right there. Well, now we know going forward what the strategy, what the playbook is in times like this. Let's move on to quarterly pending sales, guys. Quarterly measure of demand. Where are we? Where are we relative to history? Where do we come from? And again, when I say we're in a high demand environment, this chart really does show you what's going on. This is a lot of liquidity, folks. This is a lot of liquidity. You're getting a lot of closings. You're going to have a lot of good comps. You're going to have a lot of price action to look at the comps in the last year or so that you all transacted on, see where the market is. That's always a good thing. But look at how far above the red line. And there's only 1 month that had to be last summer where we got higher. And what else can I say, John?
No, well, I think that's quite a bit. So, you know, if you go back to that supply chart for a second, Noah, and you look at that long range of supply, so we're still below that line, but you know, we're close to it. It's almost as if supply has sort of, you know, it had that 1 month after COVID, was running a little bit hot, came down. Supply is kind of close to normal. So that side of the market to me is normalizing. It's sort of shifting back to its traditional seasonally active, you know, then you get the quiet periods. But then when you focus on pending, I mean, look at those pending numbers. I mean, they're just up. I mean, just heavy month, heavy quarter after heavy quarter after heavy quarter. This market, the demand side has not quite normalized yet. And I think as we get into 2022, we're going to start seeing that demand side normalize, going to go back to a seasonally active market, just like supply is. I mean, this is how things operate. And so we're going to see numbers come down, and that's going to affect the equilibrium out there between what buyers are looking for and what sellers are looking for, because something is going to feel like there's a lot more stuff that's sitting on the market. Now, obviously, if you're priced right, this is still a very liquid market. You're going to move quickly. But, you know, if you're looking at the sales prices as they come in and you're thinking, oh, and buyers are snapping up anything, I think you're making a mistake. I think you're going to be lingering on the market a lot longer than you thought you might.
All right. So I just want to counter a couple of points that you said over there, that you made some really good points over here. Number one is that this is a liquid market. This is a liquid market, guys. This is what this shows right here. And when I say liquidity, I talked to a lot of agents about this on a private session. But when I talk about liquidity, I'm talking about bids. I'm talking about deals, contracts signed. Where are those bids? All right. Are they near the ask? Are they coming down from the ask? Are they going above the ask? How close to the ask are they? How many bids are they? Right? Is it rising? Is it falling? Et cetera, et cetera. And this is telling me that there are a lot of bids. There are a lot of bids for Manhattan real estate. And there are sellers that are hitting those bids, and that they're close. They may be falling a little bit. You know, we're not going to get that data for 3-4 months, right? The second thing, I hear what you're saying, because when you look at pending sales, all at this level here, it's got to revert back to the mean, regress back to the mean at some point, which is again closer to this red line. And here's what I'm going to say about that. I mean, you got all these macro forces out there that for the first time are starting to shift, right? So now we got to wait and see if there's anything happening, or this is a seasonal thing. But I'll tell you, this is where it's going to show, guys. This is where it's going to show right there. That's all you need to know. Contract signed 1 week. You can go 1 month as well, but 1 week is a shorter time period. You'll see it. And if something is changing, that is going to drop, and that's going to drop precipitously, and it's going to stay down, and we're going to sit there and be like, this is kind of a strange thing. And it hasn't happened yet. So that's why this is such an intriguing market to me, is because I'm wondering are we going to be isolated from other dense verticals that did crazy things and we didn't do it? Right. And let's go to that. Let's pivot to price action. because this shows you guys, this shows you where we are in terms of price action. This is, correct me if I'm wrong, John, this is price per square foot, right? Manhattan price per square foot, everything. So we're not, it's luxury, it's everything. Well, everything. If co-ops have size, we're including that, right? Everything we got data on, and we put that all on a map here, and we look at where we are. This is going to confuse a lot of people, because you're going to see some big price action right now in this quarterly report. Boosted by luxury, John.
Yeah, and you're exactly right. So we had that huge push in luxury sales toward the end of last year. Basically, the fourth quarter was dominated by a lot of luxury contracts being signed. Those closed. A lot of those closed the first quarter. So that's pulling prices higher. So that the moral of the story from my end, Noah, is that we're going to be entering for brokers, buyers, and sellers a very, very confusing time when prices that are being reported are not necessarily indicative of what's happening on the ground. And supply and demand dynamics are going to be a little bit different from a buyer's point of view versus a seller's point of view.
Right. No, that is exactly what I was trying to say. That's exactly what's about to happen here. I don't think this lasts. I think that we're kind of at we're in the timing band to print the high here, kind of a thing. And I think that at some point, if members, UrbanDigs members, read the piece I put out there about the luxury market, looking at the latest data that I see, I'm questioning whether or not it's going to sustain itself. That does not mean that I think prices are going to fall. That's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying that the energy, the fuel that has been pushing that is starting to weaken and be less available, and at some point it's going to deplete. And you're right, that natural flow down might happen, which is totally normal in cycles. This is great stuff, John. Thank you so much for pulling all this quarterly data. I know we went a little bit above time, but it is quarterly market time, and that's what we do here at UrbanDigs. That is John Walkup. I am Noah Rosenblatt. We are both from UrbanDigs. Don't forget, you got questions, we got answers. Keep an eye on that new listing, 600 in 1 week. That is interesting. If you want any of the reports that we showed here today, it's going to be right over here for download. Other than that, this has been your weekly Manhattan Market Report quarterly edition. We'll catch you next time.